Welcome to another episode of the Man to Man podcast with your host, Alan the Great, and my main man, Jay Charles. But before we get to today's show, I always hit you with a like, comment, subscribe to our channel, ring the bells so you get notifications when new episodes are released. I also want to take a moment to recognize a legend, an icon who passed away at the age 91, Mr. Quincy Jones. For y'all that don't know Quincy Jones produced records like Thriller for Michael Jackson, which is one of the all-time, well, not one of, it is the all-time greatest selling album in history. Also produced Off the Wall by Michael Jackson. He worked with Frank Sinatra, was close friends with Ray Charles. He created the show Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's one of the creators for the show Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He has done amazing things out throughout his life as a musical composer, as well as he was one of the creators of the movie Color Purple, the original movie Color Purple, which I didn't know that until recently. Quincy Jones lived an amazing life. You can't quantify him as a producer. He's one of the all-time greatest music composers in history, and we can go across any genre of music. He is completely legendary. His credentials, his resume speaks for itself. And I just wanted to take a moment to recognize a true legend and icon, Quincy Jones. He passed away at the age of 91 with his family, his loved ones surrounded him. I just wanted to say before we get started to rest in peace to Quincy Jones and our condolences to his family and loved ones and all that loved him and appreciated and valued his music throughout the years. Like I know I have. I have plenty of music on my iPod or my phone that Quincy Jones produced or was responsible for throughout his illustrious career. And I just wanted to recognize him before we start today's show. All right, Jay Charles, man, how you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. You know, today is election day,
Mm,
and I mean, we did the episode on it. It's a lot going on out there, a lot happening. So somebody said it like this. I'm gonna make light of it just a little bit. Somebody said it like this: I don't care who wins. I don't care who wins. When I wake up in the morning, I don't care. I'll be surprised on who wins. They said, but let's not have a civil war in the year where the Detroit Lions might make it to the Super Bowl. That's all I'm saying, man. That's all I'm saying. Just hold it down.
oh
Hold
man,
it down. Super Bowl year for the Detroit Lions, man.
it's, it's not
Go
enough
ahead.
that the Michigan Wolverines won the national championship. It's not enough.
Come on, man. Don't
What
do
you
that.
said?
Don't no. Don't do that. We trying to start this episode on a good note. We want to end on a good note. But don't do that. Don't listen. And
Listen,
and for our viewers and listeners, don't fall for this okey doke that Alan is trying to do. He always trying to put something in there. But please, sir, please do not belittle your soon to be Super Bowl champions, Detroit Lions. Don't do that. Ain't it enough that you guys got to? No, don't do that.
oh,
Don't do that.
first, I'm a Michigan Wolverines fan.
I
Let's be
understand that.
clear.
I
I'm a
I get
Michigan,
that.
but you know what you didn't say, and I'm surprised you didn't start the episode saying how you guys just beat my Packers this week. Yeah, you
That's
like.
because that's not this. Listen, we don't. One thing about us Lions fans
Mm,
and Lions in general, we don't we don't beat you when you're down. You know
okay,
what I mean? We don't do that. We just kind of let it slide by. We know already. I mean, if you're going to play the Detroit Lions this year, there's a 90% chance it's not going to go too well for you. And we know that. And so there's no use in me saying anything, Alan the Great. There is no use. But since you mentioned it, listen, I I was watching a game. There was a guy there that had a cheese grater on his head.
yeah, I seen that. I seen the cheese grater. I seen it. Yeah, nice hat, buddy. Nice hat.
Oh man, that was hilarious. I said, boy, we come up with some stuff. We come up with some
Yes,
stuff.
yeah, you guys do. But you're doing good though. Other than the fact it's election day, you're not really worried about the election or the results or anything like that. You
No.
riding the clouds right now.
Yeah, yeah. Believe it or not, at the end of the day, um, I said it to somebody like this 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I said, once the election was over and uh, Trump had won at that time, I
Mm,
said to them, I don't want you to say anything for 4 years.
mm,
Just don't say anything for 4 years. I said, because 8 years, this last 8 years, you open your mouth a whole lot about nothing, right?
mm.
I said, don't say anything for 4 years. And in 4 years, he saw exactly what was happening. So don't say anything for 4 years. But we are facing, and this is to our viewers, this is not our episode, but we've been accustomed at this point to opening up with some things. We're in a time now that we're facing. This is historic, not just because you have a woman who is the nominee to run for president, and she is there right now. I mean, it was historic when she became vice president, right?
Hmm.
It's historic in another nature because it's going to lay the foundation of it could be a part two to what happened 8 years ago. And it's historic because we the people, come on now, we the people do certain things, and we do it to spite others, not necessarily to say you are the best candidate and you're going to take us places, but it's to spite others, and that's what it boils down to. And so when you do that, you have to understand the repercussions behind it, and it won't be good for for anybody in that. So it's historic. It's definitely historic in that nature. So we're going to see, man. We're going to see how it all plays out, and we'll see what this 4 year brings for the country, for the world, for the people, for the country, for the world, for the people. That's going to be my platform right there, Alan. I'm for the country, the world,
The
and the
country, the world,
people.
people. I got you,
There
got
you
you. For
go.
the
Put that
country,
on
the
my
world,
sign.
for the people. Yeah, we're gonna get a T-shirt made with that said. Yeah, it's gonna be yeah, it's definitely gonna be an interesting next 4 years, and it's gonna be an interesting night to see how things turn out.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
yeah, some people gonna be sitting on the edge, edge of their bed, trying to expect to happen. But to co-sign what my co-host said, hopefully, on a more serious note, there is no civil war despite the results of today's election. Hopefully, when this is all said and done, we can just kind of like figure out a way as a country, as a people, to come together and get beyond our differences and learn to work together. A lot going on in the world right now, a lot happening in the world. We're losing people. Like we started to show off with Quincy Jones, recently passed away. We've been losing people all year. We've been losing people with personal life. Holidays are coming up. We have all had our trials and tribulations, whether it's work, family, trying to keep up with bills, groceries, gas. And at this point, it's not the time to like break out in civil wars and keep, harping on our differences. It's about time for us to like move past that, move forward, and grow up and try to take a more mature approach with things and start to look beyond our differences and look at people and see where we are common, what we have in common, and how we can help each other to be better and to form a better country for not some, but for all of us. And hopefully, when this is all said and done, this is the mindset and this is where we can take things. Like, I don't know how the night's going to end. None of us have any individual control over it. But what we do have control over is what we're going to do moving forward. So it could be just wishful thinking on my end. I've been accused of being a dreamer, so it could be just dreaming. But hopefully, we can get to a place finally where we actually start to approach and do things different and move this country in a more positive direction. And that's just where I'm gonna go at with it.
You know what? Since you mentioned that, why does it take, an election year or tragedy or some of these other things to 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 bring a country together? Why is it that we can't be together every day? Why does it take something, and we do it every election, right? A
Mhm.
candidate will stand up there, when they do their final speeches, consolation speeches, and things of that nature, and when they concede, and those who win, let's come together. I mean, we are all human, um, and it takes another grown human to tell some humans, let's come together. Let's work together. Well, if we were working together, then we wouldn't have the problems that we have all year long, right?
Mhm.
If we were really together. So to say let's come together, it's almost like it almost gets you thinking, like, man, why does it take these type of events to do that? Because what ends up happening is you're going to have those, after the election. We've seen it before, right?
Mhm.
After the election, like a base football game. We do it in football all the time, or any sport, right? When I win, I'm in your face, right? I'm like, yo, you lost, da da da. And that's what it becomes. And like you just said, I like how you said is we have no bearing. We have, in all honesty, we have no horse in the race, if you will. A lot of things are on at stake, but we don't know individuals personally, right?
Mhm.
We don't know them, so we really don't. Our stake is what you just said. Can we all just get along?
Yeah.
So,
I
hey, enough
mean,
of that.
yeah, enough of that. We're gonna just leave it there and just go and move on to today's show before we not get, to the show. All right, from
Your
from
fault,
boys
man.
to
It's your
men.
fault.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's my fault. I'll take responsibility for it. I'm responsible for how election ends today. I probably shouldn't have voted early.
Mercy.
But, all right, let's get to
But you
today's show,
did.
man. All right, from boys to men. We tried to do this show last week and we got, off track, but had excellent conversation and debate that I really appreciated to have. Let's talk about it. Jake Charles, let's have this conversation, man.
Before you
Um,
before you do
yeah,
that,
it's
I'm
great. Uh
sorry.
oh, here we go. Here we go. Go ahead. We'll try to get the show moving forward.
No, I know. But you mentioned something last show, and
Yes.
about you appreciate the comments and the things that from the show prior, and Jay Tross has not commented on anything, and
Yes.
this and this
Yes.
and this.
Yes.
So I am here to tell you today. Of course, I have not commented, but I actually read some of the comments that were great from this last episode, and um was it this episode or pray for our youth? Which one we do pray for the youth? Was that the
Pray
last
for the
episode?
youth. Yeah, that's the one probably you talking about the comments from. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I thought it was a different one. But anyway, so I read some of the comments and things of that nature. Just awesome thoughts. I'm enjoying reading those comments. It validates what we're doing here.
Mm.
Validates the need for these type of conversations. So I just wanted to put that out there, Alan. I'm reading them. Now
Okay.
I got to be able to respond. That'll be next week.
Okay, but reading is fundamental, right? Just wanted to let you know that reading is fundamental. Okay.
Boys to men. ABC, BBD.
The East Coast family.
That's right.
All right, from boys to men, let's talk about it, Jay Charles. I was having a conversation earlier. I do talk to a lot of people who are incarcerated or recently incarcerated as part of, as Jay Charles say, I don't have a job, but it seems like I got a million jobs. And part of my outreach, is talking to people to help to eliminate recidivism, also to show support for people who are recently released from prison as they're making progress to help out in the community to affect us, which is, if you all know, the Man to Man podcast whole reason for being here is to create a platform for not only to have these deep conversations, but also to help show the community that there is positive role models and to inspire the community to do positive things. But either way, I was having a conversation with a gentleman, and we were talking about our growth, us as men, and a lot of the stuff we was talking about was some of the things we talked about on this show. And if we go back to older episode, we can go back to the episode where I blindsided my co-host Jay Charles, and at the time Mike May was on that episode. What was the name of that episode? Ah, man. It'll come back to me. But anyway,
women, something
something about men support. I can't remember.
men, something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember right now. I'm sorry, y'all. But the point is, one of the things we talked about was the ability to be vulnerable and to have conversations. And, that's an ongoing conversation. And we're just basically chatting about how men, as men, who do we talk to in our roles? That's what we're talking about. Men's role in relationship. That's the name of it. And we was talking about, we was just basically chatting about how our roles are in a relationship and the growth that we had to go to, the mistakes that we went through to become the men we are. But another thing we was talking about also was the difference between a grown boy and a grown man. And that's why I wanted to talk to do this show, because I think there's a distinct difference that doesn't get discussed or acknowledged enough. You hear a lot of times women say, I can't find a good man. I can't find a good man. And I always correct them, that's not accurate. The guys, the men you are dating who are not living up to your standards, who are not living up to what a man should be, are not indeed men. Those are grown boys. Because a man will hold a certain role, a certain title, and hold himself up to a certain standard. And that's why I wanted to talk about this show, to talk about the growth from a boy to growing into becoming the men that we are today. So I want to start with you, Jay Charles. What led to you becoming the man that you are today? What was some of the things that brought you to becoming the father, the man that you are today?
I think one of those things, how they say that aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that aha moment was probably when I was a young kid, right? I took a lot of my cues from my grandfather, my mom's dad, having 10 kids, working 2 jobs, and all along taking care of the family. There was never a time where there was not food in the refrigerator. Never a time when I went to my grandparents' house and you didn't smell food cooking. Never saw a time where there was a need, if that makes sense. Never seen him sitting at the table looking over bills and like, how am I going to pay this? How are we going to get the next meal or anything like that. So my cues came from him, watching what he did, how he did it, how he moved, right? My grandfather kind of moved in silence. You never saw what he was going to do next. Real quick story. My grandfather used to play the lottery. And wasn't just, these people nowadays, they go, play little numbers and put, 255, whatever, they go and do this. He used to study it, study those numbers. He'll have like all these different little books and he'll be writing things and studying it. I mean, and so when I say moving silent, people knew this. People knew that my grandfather, studies. So people would purposely come by the house, chat up a conversation, and all this kind of stuff. And then before they leave, it's like, well, what's the numbers this week? What's the numbers this week? So my grandfather give him a number. And so then later my grandfather say, yeah, he said, that's what they do. They'll come by and ask for a number. He said, I don't give them the real numbers. He said, never give me your real numbers. And that's what I mean by moving in silence. You never saw him wanting any accolades. You know, he did what he did because that's what he's supposed to do. He's the man of the house. He's supposed to take care of his, you know, his children, and when the grandchildren are there, the grandchildren and things of that nature. So for me, it was that I never had to look back, Alan, and say, how can I do better? Only because I know that if I used him as a template, even if I make mistakes, I can still come out on top.
Mm.
Long as I don't give up, right? Because sometimes you make mistakes, then you give up and say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I gotta go. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So for me, that's what it was. I think that's what put me on that journey from that boy to manhood kind of thing.
Mm.
Now, in between that, of course, there were a few mentors, you know, that came into my life at some point, you know, because and and as we go through the show tonight, we'll realize this too, as you journey through life from boys to men, that there are going to be people that come in and out of your life that are going to help you go to the next level. They're going to, you know, feed you little things that are going to help you. Whether it's, you know, you should get a black suit, you know, you need to get a blue suit, you know, you need to, you know, get some of these pairs of shoes. If it's that one person that gives you that on dressing for success, and somebody else can give you something else on grooming. You see what I'm saying? So those things help you along that journey. So yeah, that's what it was for me.
So break down the black suit and the blue suit.
So break it down. Um, so one time I heard that those are two things you should have in your closet, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're going out, when you're, you know, that blue suit is that corporate, you know, that's that, you know, you walk in, that's that interview suit.
That money suit.
So that's that money suit. That's that one. That black suit, everybody, you know, the whole thing, that black tie affair, you know, when you're stepping out, you know, when you're going out for the evening, when you know, have those two things when you're, you know, going on a dinner with some, you know, a group of people, and you're trying to, you know, trying to get that that next deal or something, you know, whatever. But have those, and there's certain suits you shouldn't have in your closet at all. And, you know, you can figure that out for yourself. But there's something you always want to go out. My grandfather told me this one time, and I'll let you jump in. My grandfather told me this one time, and it was quite interesting. Jobs have casual days, and they've been having them for years, because he mentioned this to me over more than 20 years ago. So jobs have always had that. And he always said one thing. He said, you never go to work casual.
Mm.
He said, never. He said, when they have casual Friday, you don't do casual Friday.
Mm.
He said, you can do business casual, but you don't do casual. He said, you don't go to work with jeans on. You don't do that. He says, that's not where you go for jeans. He said, when you go to work, you go to work to do your best and be your best and look your best. Mm. And so I went to work at my job. I used to work for a big company in Michigan. And I'll say it because it's relevant to this. I used to work for Amway Corporation in their corporate office. And it was casual Friday, Alan. I almost wore jeans that day. But I said, I'm going to go in a suit to work on Friday. Walked in that office, Alan. Everybody was casual. It's a big company. Everybody in my business office was casual. They casual jeans, and, you know, only two people in the entire company that day had on suits. Guess who it was?
Who's that?
Me and the CEO.
Mm.
He came to my office, and he didn't know me from Adam. Came to my office, and he came up to me. He said, guess what? And I knew who he was, of course. I said, yes, sir. He said, me and you the only ones with suits on today. Mm. And he smiled at me and shook my head. Validation.
Yeah.
So they say it, but do they really mean it? You know what I mean? So
That's a whole different subject itself right there. That's a whole different subject. But the fact that you made the correct impression by having that suit on, and I'm gonna elaborate on that a little bit more because that's something I still do when I try to influence people. You know, even my kids, I try to tell them this. In my office, a lot of people we have a relaxed, you know, type of dress code.
yeah, I sure do.
And you touched on this in the last, so of course you joked about it a little bit, and that's cool. That was funny. But with all seriousness, I started in an entry level position at one point, and where I love that, and where I empower people about that, and where I find empowerment in that is, I'm as humble as you're going to find me, and I mean, as you're going to find a person, and I'm also appreciative for that because with the opportunity that gave was starting an entry level position where people take it for granted, and this is going to tie back to your story.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to meet other people and more important people that you generally wouldn't meet if you're stuck into other certain positions. So with this position that I started out, it allowed me to do was meet a lot of different people in the company.
Mm-hmm.
And to tie it back into the story you talked about was, even though in this room that I'm working in, you know, it was dusty, it was, you know, not the most cleanest place, I came in every day with a shirt and tie on, every single day. Friday, Monday, Tuesday, didn't matter what day it was. I'm coming in with a shirt and tie, dressed like I was the CEO of the company. And I didn't realize how many people had recognized that I was dressing this way until one of my, you know, coworkers that came to me and she was like, you know, I remember seeing you years ago. And, you know, she was like, I wanted to say something to you, but she was like, I had this mean look on my face, which everybody accuses me of. But she was like, I was like, he can't work here because ain't nobody working here just that nice. But the point is with that was, outside just being able to mingle and get to know all these people, one of the secrets I tell people was to my success, because as you mentioned, I've been promoted multiple times over the last 17 years. I honestly couldn't count. And from where I started to where I am today, you know, I still can't believe where I ascended to. And one of the things is the way I dressed. Because what it did was it made people pay attention to me. And that's what it did. And like you just said, when you got the CEO who's looking at you, they pay attention to me because they're looking like, well, why is this guy dressed like this?
Absolutely.
And a lot of people's like, okay, you know, he's just going to do this for a week or two. He just started. And when they realized, hold on, he's serious about this, it brought the positive attention to me where, you know, they started recognizing me. Okay, now I need to watch this guy. Now you're watching my work ethic. Now you're watching how I carry myself. And now when opportunities present itself, I remember the name. I remember the face. I remember the work ethic. I remember how he dressed. I trust this person. So the way I always tell people, the way you present yourself when you dress is very important. I get you go to an office and you want to dress casual because it's casual Friday, you want to wear sneakers and shoes. I'm like, yo, take advantage of those opportunities and dress better than everybody else. And it's not trying to show out or show off. It's about separating yourself, because if you're looking to get a promotion, if you're looking to climb that ladder, then you gotta be an opportunist, is what I always say. You gotta be an opportunist to look for the opportunities to set yourself apart from the other people. You know, blending in, you can be overshadowed and overseen, and you may be deserving of an opportunity, but if nobody can see you, then they can't give you that opportunity. So I'm sorry I kind of went on, you know, that diatribe, and it's not about me, people. I'm not being a narcissist. I'm just stating that, you know, it's important to how you dress and you go out. You touched on your grandpop, and you talked about, you know, some of the things he taught you. My grandfather I always tell people this, and I spoke at my grandfather's funeral, and what I said at his funeral was, I could live 100 years, I still wouldn't be able to measure up to the man that he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be able to walk in his shoes. And what I meant by that is not saying that I'm less than a man or anything like that. It just was the way I stated how much I valued him, how high I valued him, and how much I admired him for the man he was. My grandfather took care of his family. He took care of his wife. He was married to his wife before he passed away for over almost 60 something years. He was dedicated to his wife. He was dedicated to his children, his grandchildren. My grandfather had he had, you know, errors in his ways. He made mistakes. He made bad choices. He didn't do everything correct. But what he did was he showed me what loyalty means to your family. He showed me what it means to be a man with taking care of your family, providing for your family, protecting your family, supporting your family. And that was a lesson that I'm always going to take from my life. And if I take nothing else from my grandfather, I take that, the providing, to protecting, to always being loyal, and to making sure my wife and my kids and my family is always great, and trying to live up to those standards that he set.
Mm.
Now, with that being said, if I'm going to be very transparent and honest on this show, I'm not going to sit here in front of you, Jay Charles, and I'm not going to sit in front of the audience and tell you I had a lot of great role models growing up, of great men who taught me amazing things and, played a huge factor into me becoming the man I am, because I'll be lying to you, sir. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I'll be lying to you. Like I told you previous show, I learned to play basketball by growing up in the projects. I learned how to fight because I had no choice to. I grew up in the projects. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was raised by a single mother. I grew up in the projects, and I had no choice but to learn how to fight. A lot of things I learned, I had to figure out on my own, unfortunately, and that's not something I would honestly want for anybody. It's not something I want for my children. But I had to learn how to be a man on my own and figure a lot out. And I always tell my children this, as a father, I'm still trying to figure this thing out. I'm still trying to learn on the job what it means to be a man, what it means to be a father. I'm still trying to figure it out. But as I figure out things, I try to share it with my children. So, for instance, one of the things I always tell my children, like my son just went to homecoming, and we had his black suit on, he has tux on, get ready to go homecoming. So I was like, yo, he don't have a watch. And I always tell him, like, yo, you gotta have a nice watch. I'm gonna have to buy you a nice watch. But of course, I have a lot of watches, and I'm gonna tell you why I have so many watches. And he's like, oh, no, Dad, I don't want to wear a watch. I don't want to wear a watch. I'm like, no, no. A watch comes with a suit or a dress shirt. It should, when you buy a dress shirt or a suit, dress clothes, a watch should come with it. As a man, you need it. And then I started to go down to break down to him why it's important for a man to wear a watch. I said, watch serves several purposes. First of all, it shows people that you respect not only your time, but their time, and that you value your time and their time. I said, as a man, it's important. The other thing I said a watch does is it's a talking piece. So when you get a nice watch on, when another man sees your watch, that's a talking piece. He's going to admire that watch, and that creates an opportunity. Go back to this word opportunity, people. An opportunity to have a conversation. Now, from that conversation, you can take that to multiple places. Maybe you create a business opportunity. Maybe you create a new friend. Who knows? Whatever opportunity creates, but that conversation is created from wearing a nice watch. So I told him it's important that you have a nice watch for two reasons: to make sure that people know that you value and respect time, so that when they look at you, they know that you're going to respect and value their time, but also the importance of creating an opportunity to have a conversation. So these are things that I try to teach my children, amongst other things. But to be a father, to be a man, it's a journey every day that I'm learning. I'm gonna let you jump in, Jay Charles, because I know I've just talked for a minute.
No, no, no. I appreciate your transparency on that, but at the same time, we have to realize, as parents, as husbands, as friends, just family members, is it's just like you go to your job. You don't know everything about your job. You're going to go in, you're going to learn something new about your job. You're going to change some of the ways that you do certain things at your job. You're going to learn time management at your job. All these different things. It's there. How they always say it is, there is no manual that comes with being a parent, a father, right? There is no manual with being a husband. If they are out there, it's from one person's perspective. It's not. It's not. They're telling me how they became the greatest, but that may not work for me. It's not a one size fit all. Everyone has a different story. Your story, what you just said there, was you had to teach yourself, right, certain things. My story is, I had the grandfather, and then I had some mentor that showed up along the way, because my mom was also a single parent. But there were, my journey was a little different. But does that make our story any different? No, the story is the same. We're trying to raise children. We're trying to be good husbands. We're trying to do all those things. And so it's an everyday on the job type of situation. You clock in and you never clock out.
Mm-hmm.
You go to your 9 to 5, you clock in, you clock out. Even when you clock out of work, you still thinking about some of the things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
man, tomorrow I know I got to do this. Oh shoot, I forgot to hand that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but outside a job, this is a never clock out. I
Yeah. No
mean,
sick days.
there is no sick days. You don't get to tap out. You know what I mean? Vacations, there's no vacation. We all going on vacation. So it's a daily. I don't want to call it a daily struggle, but it's a daily progression from yesterday to tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boys to Men is a progression from a boy yesterday and a man tomorrow. So a lot of times we as men, and those who are watching, I mean, you can chime in our chat if if we're wrong or if you agree. But sometimes we as men, we are quick to tap out. We're quick to say, you know, this load is too much for me. We tap out in a way that's a little different. We're not talking about girls to women. We're talking about boys to men. But sometimes we tap out in a way that if we just stayed in the fight, we would grow. They say in marriages, if you can get past 1 year, if you can get past 5 years, if you can get to 7 years, and I used to believe that, right? I was like, oh wow, you did. Then I saw some of my friends' parents, that I knew growing up. 25 years later, they get a divorce.
How long you been married?
22.
Okay.
What year is this? Yeah, 22. So after 25 years, I see they get a divorce. And then there's this new thing, what they said now, we're going two different ways. What? Let me turn around on that. What way are you going? And so you seeing a lot of that now. So it's almost like there was, and I'm not going to say there was nothing wrong in the relationship, but you're almost saying there was nothing wrong, but I feel like going on a different journey now. So I loved you day one. We had a great time on year 15. Things got a little shaky at year 19, but we're doing okay. But you know what? I feel like going in a different direction. And so as a child, a kid growing up, and you're hearing, that, because when I was growing up, you heard people married, and people who were married, because my mom was single. My mom and dad been married for 15 years. And I was like, wow, that's a long time. And then of course, like our grandparents, the years they've been married. And then you get to become an adult, and some of the same ones that are your parents' age who are getting divorced because of, we just, how they say it, we fell out of love. And our children now, do we teach them the same? Do we teach our boys the same? Or we tell them something different? When you feel like you're falling out of love, stay in the fight. What is love? You know what I mean? Like that definition, because sometimes we get it tricked out about the definition of what is love. And then if I fall out of love, that means I fall out of marriage. But should that exist? You know what I mean? Yep. So I think that boys to men, that we have to allow ourselves to be, like you said earlier, transparent, allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And in doing so, it builds us up, especially in that transparency. Because if you're transparent, some of the things that didn't need to be in there, you're getting them out. You letting, and then it's being filled with better things that are going to help you grow, like a tree, and things of that nature. But anyway, so
you touched on a lot of great things there, and I want to get back to them because you had a few good points that I want to explore more on. But I want to tell you this: the episode was called, I think it was "House Divided" a while ago, and I started the episode off talking about current divorce rate, and the current divorce rate for people who first time get married is at 48%. So 48% of people who are entering their first marriage at this point in time, 48% of those people are going to get divorced. It gets higher as you go to the second and third marriage, but at this, it's a trend. The numbers are trending up where divorce rate is becoming much more common practice. What I will say about that is, I've been married 15 years. I don't know how you walk away from your family. You know, I had a joking conversation with my son earlier. I always say my son, and this just shows you how many conversations I have with my son. And we was joking about cars and stuff. And he was like, "Yeah, Dad, you want to get that new Porsche 911?" I was like, "How the hell am I gonna get that? I got kids. I got a wife and 3 kids. Where am I gonna put y'all at?" He's like, "Yeah, I hang on the." He was joking, but he's like, "I hang on the tail on the back of it." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, no, we're not doing that." And I was like, it'd be a lot easier if I had kids. And like, I'm joking with him. Of course, it wasn't serious, but I'm joking with him. And I was like, just thinking in that was like, most men, how easy it is to just walk away in from a family and just do things on your own. Because as we talked about in previous episodes, when you're the husband, when you're the man, responsibilities fall on your shoulders. A lot of responsibilities fall on your shoulders. A lot of things fall on your shoulder. A lot of the weight falls on your shoulders. Not to say for the women out there, don't bite my head off, women. I know you guys have your responsibilities. You have your things that fall on your shoulders as well. But I'm speaking from a man's perspective right now. Things that fall on a man's shoulders. So it can be easy to just say, "Yo, I just want to walk away from this and walk away from the family and just, do my own thing because it'd be so much easier." But what I will say, it takes a real man to stay and fight through those difficult times. It takes a real man to stay and fight, but it also takes a real man when we talk about marriages ending to know when to fold the cards, to fold it and say, "You know what, this is not working. This is not beneficial for not only me, but for my wife. And it's not beneficial for my children because now this is becoming a toxic environment." And that's where honesty comes. Now, another thing you had mentioned, you talked about people growing apart. And I'm gonna just touch on that. And listen, in the comment section, please make sure you comment on this. And I wanted to hear your opinions and your thoughts on what I'm about to say. A lot of times I feel like people grow apart because people are just not honest. And I said this in the last show. People are just not honest in relationships and they're honest in marriage. And truthfully, people don't have these important conversations before you get married in the early stages of your relationship. And that's why these relationships are falling apart because you're not having these important conversations. And what I mean about these important conversations, let me give it a little more clarity of what I mean by that. Have these important conversations about finances. What's your credit score? I mean, listen, I know it probably sounds crazy on the first, second, third date, but this is important. If you're going to, when you make that choice to build something with somebody, we need to have this conversation to see what's the trajectory of this relationship. What are your aspirations? These are questions, and we need to have honest questions about what are your expectations of me. We talked about that, the expectation of men. What is your expectations of me as a man? And women should ask men, what are your expectations of me? And you got to be honest, people, about what are your expectations of each other. You got to be happy. You got to be comfortable with yourself. You got to learn to love yourself, learn to date yourself, learn to respect yourself. You got to learn to heal from your old wounds, old relationships, not bring all that into it. And that's when the relationship can truly move forward. When you start growing apart, it's because you didn't have those conversations before. And what's happening is things that you ignored before about your partner, things that you recognize, but you was like, it's not that big of a deal. It becomes a big deal. And I always say this, little things become big things over time. So little things that you was able to ignore that, kind of bothered you, but you was like, it's all right. I love you and I got stars in my eyes and, we in the honeymoon period. It becomes bigger as time evolves. And those little things start creating a huge division in your marriage and between each other. So yeah, then you start going different ways. You find out that your wife wants to go this way, you want to do this, and y'all start dividing. And in relationships, any moment or anything in life, once you create that crack, it's easy to split something apart because now there's room for anything to get in the middle and to start pushing you apart. But before you get to that part where you division, have those honest conversations. If you don't like something about your partner, have that conversation. I don't like this about you. And don't do it when you're angry. Don't do it when you're angry. Wait till it's a moment where y'all both are cool headed. And I know, they say a drunk person, an angry person tells no lies, but it's not about telling lies. And communication is about communicating effectively. And I learned something too, and I'm gonna speak on this, Jay Charles. I hope you can walk with me with this.
Mhm.
I got humbled twice in my life that I always tell people about. I got humbled twice. Once when I was in school, I was in a public speaking class. And I'll make this story real quick. The teacher told, I was in public speaking class in college. Teacher told, like, who wants to come up here and do a presentation? And me, because I didn't spoke in front of the crowds and did the podcast and doing all this stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'm good with this. And I get up there and my chest is all poked out walking to the front of the classroom, right? And I start, talking about a subject. And the teacher stopped me and said, stop. What's the title of your subject? So now the air comes out my chest a little bit. Then I started going, she's like, okay, go again. Start talking again, stop. You didn't say, why we should listen to you. What's your credentials on how you could talk about it? Now the air just sucked out my chest a little bit more. Okay? So then I started talking again. Then she stopped me again. And then she finally said, okay, you can go sit down now. I walked back to my desk with my head down. Okay? I was never more humbled in my life because my arrogance, made me think I knew everything. And I didn't. Second time I was humbled was shameless plug. I went on to a internet podcast to promote, not this show, but the show I had before. And before I went on, I did my research, did my homework, and this guy was talking about communication and relationships. And this where it ties back to what we're talking about from boys to men and relationships. And he said, one of the issue with people is that everybody thinks they're a great communicator. And here go me again. Here go me with my arrogance, my attitude, my chest all poked out. I'm a great communicator. I went to college, spent all this money on communication. I'm a great communicator. Then once again, the guy humbled. He said, people think they're a great communicator, but they're not. And why they're not is because people don't talk about how they truly feel. And he said, why people don't talk about how they feel is because they're worried about the other person's feelings and their response. So what happens is you don't communicate how you truly feel. You're not talking to someone and you're leaving that issue unresolved. Guess what happened? My chest went, you could just hear air coming down my chest because I realized in my relationship, there's times where I just didn't communicate because I'm worried about, this is going to turn into an argument or how my wife is going to feel or how this is going to act. And as we turn this back to boys to men, it's important to know how to communicate and effectively communicate and to express yourself. And a lot of times you're going to have to say how you feel and not always worry about how somebody else is going to feel about you speaking about your emotions or your feelings. That's not your responsibility, is to worry about how somebody else feels. Your responsibility is to know in your heart that you mean no malice in what you're talking about.
Right.
And as long as you don't mean malice in them telling you something, then it shouldn't come out that way. But you can't be held accountable for someone else's feelings or how they react to things because a lot of times with that's just somebody's trauma rearing its ugly face that they have unresolved trauma that's caused them to not effectively listen. But just because someone else cannot effectively listen, don't mean you should not effectively communicate. And that's just something, us as men, we have to learn how to do because, like you said, there's no book to speak and teach our children. But even with our children, effectively communicate with our children. Sometimes the mistake we make in teaching our young men is if your children are like my oldest son's like, here you go lecturing again, Dad. And what we do is we shut down in those moments instead of giving them a teachable moment or still trying to provide them the information. Because again, going back to tying it back again to what I previously story I told, worrying about his emotions and his reaction stops me from communicating something that's important to him, to teaching him to become a man. Because as a father and as a husband, what I always say is, all I can do is give my kids the information. I can't control what they do when they come out the house. All I can do is give them the information and hope something I say sticks when they have to make the difficult decisions in life. They make the right choice based off the information and knowledge I've given them. And that's what I'm going at with that, tying it all back together to the boys to men. All right, Jay Charles, I'm gonna give you some more time, man, because
No.
we're running time.
No. This is real good, and I want to say this, and as you mentioned to me, go with me for a second, because you said some great points there, and I want to touch on one of the points because I want boys to understand that everyone is not going to like you.
Hmm.
They're not. That just human nature. Everybody is not going to like you. Alan, you mentioned the public speaking class you took and the podcast thing that you did, and you thought you were the greatest at what you did. I mean, I'm sure you woke up that morning, you looked in the mirror, and you said, "I'm great." You looked in the mirror and said, I can do this. You looked in the mirror and you said, "You know what? I'm the best communicator I know." And that's how you looked in the mirror. You were talking to yourself and you said, I am who I am, period.
Mm.
Everybody's not going to like you.
Mm.
Everybody is looking for something different.
Mm.
Everybody wants to be at the top. Everybody wants that in their life to say, I'm number one at what I do. That's just the name of the game. A lady came and spoke in a class I had in college. And we're talking about interviewing for a job. And this is what she said. She said, I went for an interview and I didn't get the job. She said, I knew that I could do the job. The job description is pretty much exactly what I do. She said, I didn't get the job though. I didn't get the job. They went into a different direction. She said, I applied for another job. Same thing. I had the credentials. It was mine. I could have just walked in there and just threw my credentials on the table and said, when do I start? She said, I didn't get the job. She said she took a class on interviewing. And they said, sometimes it's not you.
Mm.
It's not what you know. She said, sometimes it's just your name.
Mm.
We got enough Johns. We got enough Jims. We got enough Allen. And so that's how they do their process of elimination for the amount of application they have. You always hear the thing, right? We have 700 people that apply for the job. Now, who do you know going through 700 resumes? No, they're filtering them out by name, last name, first letter, this, this and this and this. And so sometimes what happens is when I feel like somebody doesn't like me, it inflates me, right? I mean, I lose air from it, right? You were in front of the class and the teacher, she put you down off of your pedestal. She knew you had it. She knew she had. If you didn't, she wouldn't have been going at you like that, seeing where she could stump you. Let me see if he can, recover from this. So what I want to say to our boys becoming men, boys transitioning, that when you go out in the world, wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, I'm the best. Because one thing a teacher said is everybody starts out with an A in this class. You start out, it's up to you to keep that A.
Absolutely.
And so when you start out your day with, I am the best, it's up to you to walk in that, to stay the best all day long. So when people come up against you and say, man, you ain't the best communicator, all you got to do is say, yes, I am. Somebody come to you as you begin to transition from boys to men and say, you came from a single mother. You're not going to be able to be a good dad. You're not going to be able to be a good husband. You don't have a role model. You look in the mirror every day and say, you know what? I'm going to be the best dad. Stop that generational curse that they think is on me. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best father. I'm going to take my kids places that I've never gone. I'm going to be there for every event. I'm going to teach them the Bible. I'm going to pray with them. I'm going to give them what was not given to me, so that every day that I look up in that mirror, I can say I was a great dad.
Absolutely.
I did my job.
Absolutely.
And so that transition from boys to men, man, it's a hard thing. It truly is. But once you figure out the formula, nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. If you get that blue suit, if you get that black suit, if you walk in success, if you personalize it and say I am, and not say that I could be, don't do that to yourself. Don't try to be like somebody else. Be who you are, and then make that the mold. Take who you are and make that a mold. And you said something else, Alan, and I'll let you jump in. You
Mhm.
said something else that, being honest, right?
Hmm.
Even in your relationship, I may not like, or she may not like everything about who you are, but it's who you are.
Hmm.
And now, how do you take who you are and make that something positive? So yeah, so she don't like you wearing black socks, or she don't like the way you fold the blankets, or this, or whatever the case may be. It can be some small things, but it also could be some. So how do you make that positive?
Mm.
What do you do to win her over and say, this is me, but I got a better version of me.
Absolutely.
It's going to always be a part of you. You're going to
Mm.
always tell the story, Alan, of how you grew up because it's a part of you. But you
Yes.
made a better version
Yes.
of who you were, and it's still in you. When it's time to fight, it's time to fight.
Absolutely.
But when it's time to put on your shirt and tie, you're going to put on your shirt and tie.
Yes, sir.
So how do you make that better version? And that's what we want boys to men to understand. Take who you are and make a better version of that.
Amen to that. So let me let
Yes.
me uh let me touch on what you said, because I gotta tell another part of that story, because I think this is very important to what you just said in just highlighting it, because there's an ending to that story. I talked about it humbling me, but what I didn't tell you was this: how it ended. Last class, we had to do a big presentation. Okay, so it's a public speaking class, college. Had to get up there and do a presentation. You want to know how that presentation ended? Standing applause. That's how it ended for me. Standing applause, and the teacher as well give me a standing applause. Now, why I say that is not to sit here and gloat about the success. What I'm telling you, what this story is, you watch me, and I'm telling you, watch me fall on my face. You watch me walk up, arrogant, chest poked out. You watch my chest get deflated. You watch me fall, mud on my face. You watch me do the walk of shame back to my seat. You watch me not only do that, but I'm telling you the story, tell you, you also see me get up and become triumphant. And when I talk about the story, like Jay Charles talked about, being part of my story, growing up in the projects and my humble beginnings, the reason I always tell people the story is because it's a part of my story, but it's not about where I came from. It's not about where I'm at. It's about the journey in between. And what's important about my story is this: it is something I think is important to every young boy as well as every man. It don't matter about the fall. It don't matter about you being on the ground. When I talk about me having to learn how to fight and me fighting, it's not thinking I'm the toughest guy out here and I can beat everybody. I'm not. But I tell you one thing: I will never stop fighting for my family. I'll never stop fighting for myself. And that's what I'm talking about with my story. I could have easily went back to my seat, felt sorry for myself, dropped the class. That humbling, that moment pushed me to work harder, pushed me to see my mistakes and correct them. It pushed me to success. And what I'm telling you that is to tell you this, people. So when you run into these moments, like Jay Charles said, you gotta fight for it. You gotta fight to get yourself up. You gotta stand in that mirror and tell yourself great, even though everybody else might tell you suck. Jay Charles talked about, he said, the CEO seen his suit, and him and the CEO was the only ones that had the suit on. And he's like, yo, it was validation when the CEO shook his hand, but he's like, did he really mean it? Well, that highlights something Jay Charles just said too. Not everybody's gonna like you. And that's accurate, and that's something I had to learn. Not everybody's gonna like you, Alan. Not everybody's gonna appreciate you. Not everybody's gonna see you how you see yourself. Some people, you might see yourself as the greatest person in the world. Your name is Alan the Great, but there's a whole meaning behind that. We ain't gonna get to it today. One day I'll tell you that story, Jay Charles. But the point is, everybody's not gonna see you great. But you gotta see yourself that way. And you have to understand, like Jay Charles said, everybody's not going to like you. They're not going to see you as great as you are. But the object is not for everybody else to see your greatness. It's for you to see it. And this is something, I tell people all the time. Because you talked about the job. Something I tell people all the time is, you go through 50 interviews, right? right? Jay Charles, you go do 50 job interviews. In 49 of those interviews, Jay Charles, you get no, you get denied. What I tell people is this: one, that's all you need to focus on. One, people. They say one is the loneliest number, but no, one is the most important number. Because see, out of those 50 interviews, all you need is one yes. You don't need 49 yeses. You don't need 50 yeses. All you need is that one yes. And it's what you do with that one yes is most important. Now, just because 49 people denied you, does that mean you're not good enough? No, that's not what that means. Because you failed 49 times, does that mean you're not good enough? No. What did Thomas Edison said? I don't know the exact amount of times, but he said he didn't fail 99 times. He just found 99 ways not to make a light bulb, or maybe that was somebody else. I don't know. But the point is, you know what I'm saying with the story, is all you need is that one in success, people. And understand that all you need is one person to believe in you. And sometimes that one person is you. To my young boys out there watching this, to the women who are out there watching this, the girls who are watching this, to the men who are out here watching this show, understand one. One, I say it again, they say one is the loneliest number, but the truth is one is the most important number, because that's all you need is one person to see your true potential, to see your true greatness, to understand it. And sometimes that one person is you. Because if you can see it, then eventually the whole world can see it. But I will highlight again what Jay Charles said. You know, everybody's not going to like you, and that's something I had to learn. And the sooner you become more comfortable with the understanding that everybody's not going to like you, and that doesn't mean you've done something wrong, but it just can mean that some people are dealing with their own trauma. The faster you can get beyond your own trauma and to grow and to learn and to live in your success. One other thing, I'll let you go before I let you go, Jay Charles. I know we're running really short on time right now. We almost at the time. Trauma. We talk about this all the time. The importance, and I'll make this quick. The importance of healing from our trauma. Listen, people, I can't say this enough. And I'm not going to go on this long diatribe. I'm just going to say this: take time to really, really forgive yourself, forgive others, and heal from your trauma, so that you don't continue to pass it down like it's inheritance to the next generation. And I'm just going to say that, and I'll let Jay Charles jump in before we got to sign off.
I was sitting here and I was smiling because um, when you told your story and you said how it ended, I want to also frame it as you're not going to always be the winner.
Mm.
Okay. It's around 1993, I think it was, 94 was. So here I go again. I used to do some speeches. Okay. And the speech that I used to do was the I Have a Dream speech.
Mm.
I had did it many times, Alan. I knew it like the back of my hand. And I had did it for elementary schools, and I had did it for middle schools, and I did it for high schools. I mean, I was all over the place, you know, not all, it makes it seem like I was all over the world, you know, just in my little city, you know,
right.
for different events because I was a part of a group. And I had, you know, created this thing. I felt it. You know, I watched the videos and things of that nature, the mannerisms and everything. And I had did it so many times. Got invited to an NAACP event. So when you talk about your chest is big, right?
Mm-hmm.
So got invited to this event. And this is where I'm talking about you don't win everything.
Mm.
Got up there. And this was the one time that I could actually hear myself doing the speech, which was really weird for me, right? I could hear it. I could feel it. I'm sounding like Dr. Martin Luther King. And in excitement, and I'm rolling through the speech, and I get to this point, and it hit me like a brick wall. Just lost it. I couldn't remember. No words. I froze. This is the climax of the speech, and I froze. You don't win everything. I walked off the stage, went into a room flipped over on a couch,
Mm.
crying my eyes out. I walked, my mom them came, people just came back there. It was a packed crowd.
Mm.
And they wanted me to come back out. Bring him back out. Bring him back out. They wanted me to, get back in there and just do it again. I kid you not. Same part. Could not remember. It was just gone. Felt defeated. As you said, though, standing ovation. Now, in on one hand, were they standing just to cheer me up and just, encourage me and, we got you, we stand. Or on the other hand, you did so well, we didn't even think about, this part, right? So you have all these things going through your head. And I realized at that moment is you're not going to win always. Even in front of big crowds, you're not going to win always. But this is where it counts. A man walked up to me, Alan, and this is what he said. He said, one thing you're not going to do, this is what he said. He said, what you're not going to do is fail. He said, you're going to be back up on this stage in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He said, because if not, you're going to have a fear of doing anything in public. He said, so I'm going to have you come back and do something. There was. I didn't win today, but I was still a winner in the end. So what I'm saying to that is, some days you're going to feel defeated. Some days you're going to feel like I can't get through it. Some days you're going to even feel like, listen, I cannot battle through this. It may not be for you today, but if you come back and stand strong and do it all over, it will work out for you. So don't worry about the first time. Don't worry about the second time. Don't even worry about the third time. But if you come back again, and everything will be all right. Boys to men, it may not work out the way the template has been set for you. Sometimes you got to detour this way. What is the poem saying? I travel the road less traveled.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can't follow that template. How they said, your parents want you to be a doctor and they want you to be a lawyer and they want you to do this and they don't want you to have the blue collar jobs. And, sometimes your detour may be a road less traveled.
Mm.
In the end, though, you'll still be a winner.
Absolutely.
Keep your head up.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story. That was an amazing story, man. And I personally looked at it as a story of triumph because it took a lot of courage to go back on that stage and to try again. It could have been easier for you just to like, yo, man, I'm not coming back out there. I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm not going to embarrass myself. So, much respect to you for going back out there and having the courage. And I believe that's the real reason of giving you a standing ovation. Because if I was there, I would have gave you one as well. Because, like I said, the easier thing to do in that situation would be to stay in the dressing room. I'm not going back on stage and just claim defeat and just call it a night and just say it's not my night. But the courage it took for you to get back on this stage speaks volumes of the type of man you are and have become, and the man I know you are of today, and the stature that you carry and how you carry yourself today. I'm not surprised that you took the that road, like you said, the road less traveled. And much respect to you, and thank you for sharing that story as well, because that was a very powerful story. I think a lot of boys, as well as men, and women, as well as young women, need to hear that. So thank you for sharing that story. All right. Now, before we close out today's show, I want to share one last story. All right. Now, this is not my story, people, so don't worry. It's not my story, but I just want to pay respect again. Like we opened the show up with paying respect to the late, great Quincy Jones. So, Jay Charles, if you don't mind, I want to close the show out with this story. I was reading a book This was about 2 years ago or so. I don't know the exact amount of time. And the book I was reading was Will Smith biography book. In his story, he told a story. Now, I talked about Quincy Jones creating the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? And I talked about opening this up with Quincy Jones. So it's only right that I end the show talking about the late, great Quincy Jones. And this is going to go with Boys to Men. Quincy Jones invited Will Smith to his house, to a house party. Okay? Now, this wasn't no Diddy party or nothing like that. So Will Smith was kind of shocked because he didn't really have a relationship with Quincy Jones, didn't know Quincy Jones, so he's kind of shocked that Quincy Jones invited him to his house. So in the middle of this whole party, Quincy Jones had people clear out the living room, like move furniture and clear out this living room. He goes to Will Smith and he says, "We're creating this show. It's called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air." And he's setting up the scenario and he's like, "Go, I want you to perform right now. Go, right there on the spot." Now, Will Smith didn't know nothing about this prior to this, didn't know nothing about it. When Quincy Jones was clearing out the room, didn't know nothing about this, didn't know nothing about an audition, wasn't prepared for nothing. So Will Smith, like many of us, was shocked. So he was like, "Can I talk to you in private to Quincy Jones?" So he asked for a private conversation with Quincy Jones. So Quincy Jones took him into his library, people. Now go back and watch the story, read the story if you don't believe it. And Will Smith was like, "I'm not ready for this opportunity. I need more time." So Quincy Jones was like, "Okay, you need more time to get prepared for this? Cool. How much more time you need? You need a week?" So Will Smith was like, "Yeah, that would be great." He said, "You know what? How about this? How about 2 more weeks?" So Will was like, "That's even better." He said, "I'll do you one better. How about I give you a month?" He was like, "Yo, could you really?" Will Smith was like, "Could you really? That would be awesome. I would definitely be prepared in it." Then Quincy Jones said, "Will, right now, we have the president of, I don't remember the exact show it was. I think it was the WB that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air came out on. We have the president of the show. We have everybody right now in this party, in this room right now, who can approve and green light this show in the room right now." He said, "A week from now, all these people are going to be scattered over the world. 2 weeks from now, we're not going to have all these people in the room. A month from now, these people will never have everybody in the room at this moment. This has to happen now." Will Smith was like, but I don't have a lawyer. I don't have an accountant." Quincy Jones got on the phone. He called the lawyer who just happened to be at the hospital with his wife who was in labor. "I need you to get to my house to sign this contract." Will Smith came back out after Quincy Jones told him, "The opportunity is now. Either this is going to happen now or never." Will Smith went out, took a couple seconds, gathered himself, went out. He auditioned right there on the spot for Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The lawyer came from the hospital. Mind you, his wife was in labor with his first child. Negotiated the contract with Will Smith right there. Went back to the hospital. Wife gave birth to his child. We know what the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air turned out to be. We know what Will Smith's career turned out to be, minus the slap with Chris Rock. The lawyer that negotiated the deal is Will Smith's lawyer to this day. Okay? That show catapulted Will Smith to being a box office giant and creating the illustrious career this man has today. Now, when you look at Will Smith's career, remember, he was a rapper, first rapper to win a Grammy Award. But that moment, and the reason I'm telling you this story is this, people, because I want to end it with this, and it's important. What Quincy Jones was telling Will Smith, that if you're ready for opportunity, you will never have to get ready. Opportunity is not set to a clock. It's not set to a schedule. My men, my boys, my women, my young ladies, opportunity is going to come when you least expect it and when you're least ready for it. But if you're ready, you will not have to get ready. And I'm telling you a story about Quincy Jones because, again, great man, lived a full life, very successful life, but shared knowledge with a young man and helped catapult one of the greatest actors in Hollywood to this day. Not black actor, but one of the greatest actors. Just imagine. I want y'all just to sit here and chew on this as we end the show. What if Will Smith passed up that opportunity? Do you know him? Do you get Independence Day? What about Bad Boys franchise? Just sit there and think about it for a second. And think about the opportunities you might pass up because you're not ready for it. So as you're growing from a boy to a man, understand the opportunities that's going to show itself in your life is not always going to be set to a schedule or time. You don't know when it's going to come. You don't know when it's going to present itself. So get ready so that you will be ready for when your time comes. Jay Charles, I want to thank you for joining me for this epic conversation, this epic show, bro. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I'm thankful for you being my co-host. You got anything you want to say before we sign off today?
No, man, you done said everything.
All right, all right. And with that being said, people, again, remember to like, comment, subscribe to our channel, ring the bell so you can get notifications when new episodes are released. People, every Wednesday we release new episodes on schedule. We're clockwork. Jay Charles has been with me. We've been pushing through this. Whatever our busy, he's a busy man. I'm a busy man. We got a lot going on, but we've been making sure we sit down, we get the best quality show we can, great conversations for you. So please show us the support we need. If you love what we do, people, we're going to need you. I'm going to say it again. Like, comment, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with people so that we can continue to do what we do and that we know that you appreciate and value our time and with me and Jay Charles and the work we're putting into this show.
And let me throw this in real quick.
Yes, sir.
I want to conversate with some of y'all. So I tell you what, I'm gonna comment. I'm gonna comment on every comment.
Okay.
That's my word on that. On this show, this one, not on the other ones. On this one, I'm gonna personally comment on these shows. Let's get it. Let's go. Let's share. Let's like. Let's comment. Jay Tross coming for the comments. I'm here for it.
You couldn't just let it go, could you?
Nah.
Jay Charles said he read the last comments. Let me say, reading is fundamental, people. Listen, I want everybody.
If I just put an emoji on there, that just
he could at least hit a heart or a like or something. like he write his name, like good. Jay Charles was here. But yes, definitely. Yes, make sure y'all comment on this show so that Jay Charles can communicate with y'all. Like, we definitely like to hear from y'all and hear your thoughts on today's show. And just before we end it, just remember, people, you are a role model. Peace.